Atatürk Airport attack. Picture this: a bustling international airport, a nexus of global travel, in the vibrant city of Istanbul. It was June 28, 2016, a day that started like any other but would soon be etched in memory as a scene of unthinkable terror. Around 10 p.m., as travelers were checking in, reuniting with loved ones, or simply passing through, chaos erupted. 3 assailants, armed with Kalashnikov rifles and explosive belts, launched a coordinated attack at Terminal 2 of Atatürk Airport. One moment, everything was routine. The next, the air was thick with the sound of gunfire and explosions. Security footage captured a harrowing moment. A gunman firing indiscriminately within the terminal, then falling after being shot by an officer, only for his suicide belt to detonate seconds later. People scrambled, driving for cover under benches, in shops, anywhere they could find a sliver of safety. Taxis, usually a beacon of convenience, became impromptu ambulances, their drivers shouting warnings to incoming traffic, "Don't enter! A bomb exploded!" The aftermath was heartbreaking. 48 lives were extinguished, including the 3 attackers, and over 230 people sustained injuries. The victims were a global mosaic, including Turkish nationals as well as citizens from Saudi Arabia, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, China, Iran, Uzbekistan, Tunisia, and Ukraine. In the immediate wake, flights were suspended, and social media, a lifeline for information, became frustratingly slow, almost unusable. The world responded with somber solidarity, illuminating landmarks in the colors of the Turkish flag, and the hashtag #PrayForTurkey resonated across social media platforms, a testament to collective grief and human connection. Investigations soon pointed to the Islamic State, with officials believing the attackers, 2 of whom were later identified as Rakim Bulgarov and Vadim Osmanov, hailed from Russia and Central Asia, having entered Turkey from ISIL-controlled Syria. This horrific event served as a stark reminder of the ever-present threat of terrorism and the devastating impact it leaves in its wake. The Domodedovo International Airport bombing. In January 2011, a chilling event unfolded at Domodedovo International Airport in Moscow, shaking the very foundations of global travel. A suicide bombing ripped through the international arrivals hall, claiming 37 innocent lives and leaving 173 wounded. The sheer force of the blast, equivalent to between 4.4 and 11 pounds of TNT, tore through the baggage area claim, a scene of chaos and despair. Among the casualties, 31 perished instantly, while others succumbed to their injuries in the days and weeks that followed, a stark reminder of the attack's devastating reach. Domodedovo, located about 26 miles southeast of central Moscow, was no stranger to such horrors. In 2004, the airport had already witnessed 2 aircraft bombings by Chechen female suicide bombers. Moscow itself bore the scars of numerous prior attacks, including metro bombings that killed 51 people in 2004 and another 40 in 2010. This latest assault, investigators swiftly concluded, was, first and foremost, aimed at foreign citizens, a calculated act of terror in a space designed for welcoming international travelers. The identity of the bomber soon emerged: 20-year-old Magomed Yevloyev from Ingushetia. However, the orchestrator of this tragic event, Doku Umarov, leader of the Caucasus Emirate, remained at large despite claiming responsibility and threatening further violence. He even reportedly planned 2 more Moscow bombings, one near Red Square foiled by an accidental detonation, and another carried out by a converted Russian couple in a different village. Ultimately, 4 associates of Yevloyev, including his 15-year-old brother, were apprehended and later sentenced, with 3 receiving life terms and the younger brother jailed for 10 years. This brutal chapter serves as a somber reminder of the enduring fight against such insidious threats. Brussels bombings. On a seemingly ordinary Tuesday, March 22, 2016, the quiet morning in Brussels shattered with a series of coordinated terrorist attacks. The first devastating blast occurred at Brussels Airport in Zaventem, sending shockwaves through the departure hall. Just over an hour later, a second explosion ripped through a train at Maelbeek metro station, located near the European Commission headquarters, roughly 6 miles from the airport. These horrific events claimed 32 innocent lives and left over 300 individuals wounded, marking the deadliest attack on Belgium since World War II. The perpetrators, members of an Islamic State cell, were not strangers to such violence. They had also been deeply involved in the November 2015 Paris attacks. In a grim twist, Belgian investigators suspected that the arrest of Salah Abdeslam, a key figure from the Paris attacks just 4 days prior to the Brussels bombings, might have hastened the cell's decision to strike. The attacks, which involved 3 suicide bombers and 2 others who fled without detonating their devices, were fueled by explosives known as TATP. The aftermath saw Brussels plunged into a state of emergency. Air traffic ceased, public transport halted, and Eurostar journeys were cancelled. Remarkably, the community rallied together, with spontaneous memorials appearing in hashtags like I want to help and Open Door trending as residents offered aid. While the world mourned and illuminated landmarks in Belgium's colors, the attacks ignited debates about security, radicalization, and the disproportionate attention given to Western attacks versus those in other parts of the world. Ultimately, 10 men faced trial, with 6 convicted of terrorist-related murder and attempted murder, bringing a measure of justice to a city forever marked by that tragic day. Jinnah International Airport attack. On the evening of June 8, 2014, chaos erupted at Jinnah International Airport in Karachi, Pakistan, as 10 heavily armed militants launched a devastating assault. The attackers, equipped with automatic weapons, grenades, a rocket launcher, and even suicide vests, stormed the cargo terminal, leading to a fierce 5-hour gun battle. When the dust settled, 36 lives were lost, including all 10 assailants, and 18 others sustained injuries. This marked the first major incident at Pakistan's largest and busiest airport since the hijacking of Pan Am Flight 73 back in 1986. The Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan swiftly claimed responsibility, declaring it an act of retaliation for the death of their former chief. They confirmed the attackers were foreign nationals, specifically Uzbeks affiliated with the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, an organization known to work closely with the TTP. In a chilling admission, the IMU also acknowledged their role, citing Pakistani military operations against foreign militants as their motive. Photographs released by the IMU showed the 10 young Uzbek fighters dressed in green tunics and white trainers carrying assault rifles, seemingly in a mountainous region. The Pakistani military's response was swift and decisive. They launched a series of aerial strikes on the militant hideouts along the Afghan border, killing at least 25 militants, including foreign fighters, just 2 days after the airport attack. These actions culminated in Operation Zarbiaz, a comprehensive military offensive in North Waziristan. While the airport itself suffered significant losses, including damage to 2 PIA aircraft and 1 Air Indus plane, the attack also sparked a crucial national conversation about security vulnerabilities and the ongoing fight against terrorism in Pakistan. The incident left a lasting impact, prompting tightened security at airports across Pakistan and even in neighboring India, and raising concerns among foreign airlines about expanding operations in the country. Minambakam bomb blast. On a humid night in August 1984, Madras Airport, what is now Chennai International, became the stage for one of India's most chilling airport attacks. 33 lives were lost and 27 more left injured because of a bomb that wasn't even meant to explode there. The Tamil Eelam Army, a relatively obscure Sri Lankan militant group, had planned to send a deadly message, one that should have gone off in Colombo, Sri Lanka, but a small mix-up with the baggage handling system turned the entire operation into a local tragedy. Leading this grim mission was Katharisan Maheshwaran, a chemical engineer from London who was so good at escaping prisons they called him Panagoda after the high-security prison he broke out of. He bought a ticket for an Air Lanka flight bound for Colombo, had his team load 2 suitcases filled with explosives timed to detonate at 10:52 p.m., and simply vanished before boarding. The plan? Let the luggage quietly make it to Colombo, then erupt at the cargo complex. The damage would have been massive. Police estimate at least 6 aircraft would have been destroyed. But the suitcases were mistakenly tagged for a London-bound flight. Ground staff got suspicious when Maheshwaran didn't board, and the bags were pulled aside. His team watched nervously from inside the airport, began making frantic, anonymous calls to warn the authorities. Customs officials laughed it off, literally. One officer thought the bags were full of gold. Only after the 3rd call did they hand over the luggage. By then, it was too late. At 10:52 p.m., as the baggage handler tried to move the suitcases, the airport's international arrival hall was ripped apart. Among the dead were travelers and airport personnel, innocents caught in the chaos. 10 people were arrested. Only 5 got life sentences, and Maheshwaran slipped away once again. Lod Airport massacre. On May 30th, 1972, a scene of terror unfolded at Israel's Lod Airport, one that would shock not just a nation, but the entire world. 3 men stepped off an Air France flight from Rome carrying what looked like violin cases, but inside weren't instruments. There were Czech assault rifles with the stocks removed, ready to be fired. What followed was a brutal onslaught. Within minutes, 26 people lay dead and over 80 were wounded. The attackers weren't Palestinian as security had expected. They were Japanese radicals, recruited by the Popular Front of the Liberation of Palestine. That surprise gave them the opening they needed. Among the victims were 17 Christian pilgrims from Puerto Rico, People who had come seeking spiritual peace, not a war zone. One of the most high-profile victims was Aharon Katzir, a world-renowned scientist and presidential hopeful in Israel. His death was a national tragedy. One attacker was killed by his own grenade. Another was accidentally shot by his comrade. The third, Kozo Okamoto, survived and was captured. He later claimed it was his duty as a soldier of the revolution and pled guilty to avoid a death sentence. Though sentenced to life, he was released just 13 years later in a prisoner exchange and found refuge in Lebanon. Meanwhile, in 2010, a U.S. court ordered North Korea to pay $375 million to the victims' families for its role in supporting the plot. Puerto Rico, still mourning, passed a law to mark May 30th as Lod Massacre Remembrance Day. A granite memorial was raised near the capital, etched with the names of the victims and a chilling reminder. Terrorism doesn't care about borders or languages. It only seeks chaos. One suitcase, one mistake, and an entire airport became a battleground. Malta Airport Massacre. On November 23, 1985, Egypt Air Flight 648, a Boeing 737 carrying 92 passengers and 6 crew, was hijacked just minutes after leaving Athens en route to Cairo. The culprits, 3 armed members of the Abu Nidal organization, forced the plane to reroute, ultimately landing in Malta after a shootout caused cabin depressurization and wounded several people. Their intended stop was Libya, but fuel shortage, aircraft damage, and international pressure made that impossible. The hijacking turned deadly quickly, escalating into one of the bloodiest hostage crises ever seen aboard an airplane. The initial shootout in the cabin was sparked by a 26-year-old Egyptian Sky Marshal, Method Mustafa Kamal, who killed one hijacker before being shot himself. Though wounded, Kamal's bravery set a chaotic series of events in motion. The aircraft, now damaged and pressurized at only 14,000 feet, limped to Lucca Airport in Malta, where it landed despite authorities turning off runway lights in a last-ditch attempt to prevent it. Negotiations failed. The hijackers, now led by Omar Razak, began executing hostages in cold blood. Starting with Israelis Tamar Artzi and Nitzan Mendelsohn. Artzi miraculously survived 2 bullets to the head and back. Razak then executed American passengers, including Scarlett Rogenkamp, with shocking brutality. In one haunting moment, he shot Patrick Baker, a U.S. biologist, in the head on the stairwell. The bullet only grazed his skull. Baker faked death and escaped while still tied up. Of the 98 people on board, 60 were killed, including 2 hijackers and 2 crew. Among the dead were 16 Filipinos and Mexican actress Lupita Palas with her daughter. This hijacking laid bare and deadly consequences of terrorism in the skies. Razak was the sole hijacker to survive, captured alive and later sentenced. The tragedy pushed global aviation security into a new, more militarized era. Suvarnabhumi International Airport seizure. In November 2008, Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi International Airport, one of Asia's busiest hubs handling over 45 million passengers annually, became the center of an unprecedented political crisis. The People's Alliance for Democracy, known for their yellow shirts and deep opposition to then Prime Minister Somchai Wongsawat, launched what they dramatically called Operation Hiroshima. Hundreds of protesters, many armed with clubs, iron bars, and knives, and some masked, stormed the airport, overtaking riot police with shocking ease. Their goal? To prevent the Prime Minister's return flight from Peru. By nightfall on November 25th, PAD forces had blocked major roads, infiltrated the control tower, and demanded access to Somchai's flight plan. Their occupation brought operations at Suvarnabhumi to a grinding halt. Airports of Thailand officially suspended all flights, stranding over 100,000 travelers. International flights were canceled for 8 days, costing Thai Airways alone an estimated $56 million in revenue losses. Explosions rocked the terminal the following morning, injuring several people. Yet forensic experts were barred by PAD from investigating. The Royal Thai Army, though requested by the government to intervene, refused to deploy troops. Instead, General Anupang Pauchita urged both sides to step down, an appeal neither honored. On November 27th, a state of emergency was declared. Despite this, the PAD vowed to resist, threatening human shields. Homemade firearms and an axe were discovered at one of the checkpoints. Tensions reached boiling point as an officer was detained and interrogated inside the airport. Then, on December 2nd, Thailand's constitutional court dissolved the ruling coalition. By the next morning, PAD announced their withdrawal. They declared victory, saying their goal had been met. On December 4th, the airport slowly crept back to life, beginning with Thai Airways' flight to Sydney. The siege had ended, but its impact lingered across politics, travel, and the global stage. Fort Lauderdale Airport shooting. On a seemingly ordinary day, January 6, 2017, The tranquility of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport was shattered by a sudden outburst of gunfire. Just before 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a man who had flown in from Alaska, Esteban Santiago Ruiz, unleashed chaos near the baggage claim in Terminal 2. Armed with a legally purchased 9mm semi-automatic pistol, which he had checked in his luggage and then loaded in an airport restroom, Santiago fired 15 shots in a span of just 70 to 80 seconds. 5 innocent travelers, all embarking on cruises with their spouses, lost their lives, while 6 others suffered direct gunshot wounds. The ensuing panic led to approximately 36 additional injuries as people desperately sought safety. In a remarkable display of immediate response, a Broward County Sheriff Office deputy trained for such active shooter scenarios ran toward the gunfire. Within a mere 85 seconds of the first shot, the deputy apprehended Santiago, who had laid down on the floor after ceasing his attack. The swift action of law enforcement was later described as textbook by Special Master J. Dudley Goodlett. Santiago, a 26-year-old unemployed former member of the Alaska Army National Guard and Puerto Rico National Guard, had a troubled past. His family reported that he began experiencing mental health issues after his service in the Iraq War, where he witnessed a bomb blast near friends. He had sought psychological treatment prior to the airport attack and, in November 2016, even visited an FBI field office in Anchorage, claiming the US government was controlling his mind and forcing him to watch Islamic State videos. Though his handgun was temporarily confiscated by Alaska police during one incident, it was returned to him in December because he hadn't been convicted of a serious crime or involuntarily committed. After his arrest, Santiago was diagnosed with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder. He eventually pled guilty to avoid a potential execution, receiving 5 consecutive life sentences plus 120 years in prison. The tragic event left more than 20,000 pieces of luggage stranded at the airport, a stark reminder of the disruption and devastation caused by a single act of violence.